Now I'd like to talk to you about something that bothers me a lot, and it's this idea that there's a root cause for health issues. So people are always looking for that smoking gun, why they got cancer, why they have heart disease, and or they accept simple answers as to why that happened, like saturated fat caused heart disease. These are all just cherry-picked little ideas that people put in our heads, and unfortunately, we seem to think there is a root cause. But let's talk about that a little bit more and let's see what really is going on. Let's start with why this idea of the root cause has become a misleading health concept. So, this conversation matters. Finding the root cause has become a dominant health message, partly because of research, and this is what they focus on. They're looking for these causes. It sounds empowering and logical. Get to the root cause, solve the problem. But for many people, it leads to frustration and fear and endless searching because for most conditions and most situations, there isn't a root cause. Even if you want to take something as simple as a virus, somebody gets a virus, yes. You may say that the cause of the virus is the virus, all right, and the symptoms that occur, that's caused by the virus. But each person reacts differently to viruses, and therefore the outcome is not determined by the virus alone. There's so many other factors inside the person's body that will determine how much this virus debilitates them. So complex systems rarely break down for a single reason, and that's what we need to focus on. We are complex beings, and when we develop a health issue, we have broken down somewhere, something, somehow the communication is wrong, the information is wrong, something's been damaged, who knows, but it doesn't happen for a single reason. So, how is root cause commonly framed? The common promise: find the cause, fix the problem, everything resolves, right? We've seen it a million times on TV. Medical shows are great. They always find this cause, and miraculously, the person recovers. Seldom does that work like that in real life. So, the underlying assumption is the body works like a simple machine. And why is this framing appealing? Well, it offers certainty, right? If you have a cause, avoid the cause, you don't get the situation. It creates a clear target. If there's a cause, we target that cause, get rid of the problem. It suggests we have control. We should know by now that we don't. It promises resolution. We all like resolution, but we often don't get it. So certainty feels comforting, even when it's inaccurate. So we want this, we like this idea, but it doesn't necessarily play out for us. The problem with single cause thinking: well, health systems are adaptive, not linear. We being a health system. Multiple systems, which we have in our body, interact all at once, and this causes shifts over time. Looking for one cause often ignores the pattern that actually matters. So, how do we have this root cause keeping us stuck? Well, endless testing and analysis is going on, and constant diet and protocol changes. So, in other words, we got to test it. We think it's going to tell us the results. We do some more analysis on the subject. We think we've found something out. We make constant diet changes, or we do a new protocol. We think that's going to stop the root cause and solve the problem. There's a feeling with all of this that the body is broken, and the result is that your progress stalls and confidence erodes. Root cause versus contributing patterns. So, what we should really be talking about is contributing patterns, or if you want, just call them factors. So, root cause thinking is one trigger, one fix, one solution. Pattern based thinking is multiple contributors, interactions over time. You can tell from that 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 means it's not a simple answer. And then, of course, shifting priorities. So when we are looking at it from this perspective, we can shift the priority of how we see health and what we should be doing to be more focused on the patterns that need to be corrected. So, why fixing one thing rarely fixes everything? Removing one factor doesn't rebalance the system. The body compensates. It's one of our strengths, but it's also a weakness. New symptoms often appear. So, yes, we want the body to compensate in ways that are helpful for us, but often that's not what occurs. Systems adapt, they don't just simply reset. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a reset, but no, we have to teach our body to adapt so that it will stop having the malfunction that we are experiencing. When the root cause becomes a marketing tool. So this is one of the biggest issues. When we have simple explanations, they sell well, and single villains are easy to blame. Why do you think people think gluten is bad for them? Gluten is not bad for them unless they're celiac or they have a gluten sensitivity. But for most people, gluten is actually very, very beneficial. Even your colon bacteria likes gluten and gliadin and all of its little parts. So, but look how easy it was to blame gluten or saturated fat or carbs for weight gain. How easy was that? And get so many people thinking it's true. Complexity is really hard to market. It's really hard for even me to be telling you all this stuff and thinking, I don't think I'm telling you everything you need to know. And yet, I don't know how else to do it. Just step by step, start explaining these things. And then maybe we can have a different perspective than finding these single villains to blame and thinking we're accomplishing something. There's an important distinction. Clear messaging is not the same as accurate messaging. So even though they can tell you something is to blame, that doesn't mean it's true. A more useful way to think about health is to focus on patterns, capacity, resilience, adaptation. So patterns are the way the body repeats how it behaves or how the foods react within us or how we respond to things. Capacity is what we are capable of. There are going to be times when our physical function is such that we don't have the capacity to respond like we once would have. Okay? Or maybe, we lose use of a limb, like our arm. Well, we've lost the capacity for that arm. What we're trying to do is not lose the capacity for our gut. So capacity is really important. Resilience is everything. If you do any longevity reading, you know that resilience is the key to long life. And therefore, what we are trying to do is have a resilient gut and as a result, a resilient body that is both mentally and physically, and our microbes affect both. So that means that we can adapt and respond to things quicker, faster, and more successfully the more resilient we are. So that leads us to adaptation because we need to adapt to whatever scenario we find ourselves in. This is how we should think, this is how our microbes think, and our body thinks. We all think the same. We must adapt. So therefore, adaptation is critical, and the better you adapt and the more resilient you are, the better you will function. The goal isn't to eliminate one cause, it's to strengthen the system. What does progress look like? Progress often means fewer extremes, more stability, gradual improvement, and better tolerance to change. So, in other words, you're not going to experience these swinging symptoms that could be extreme and debilitating. You're also not going to be exposing the body to extremes, either in the way you eat or the lack of sleep you get or the exercise. You're going to create a more stable environment for your gut, which is going to affect how stable you are, your body is, how you feel emotionally, mentally, and physically. You're going to notice gradual improvement because it takes time to feed the microbes, build them up, and get the results from a functional perspective that you're looking for. And what you're also going to notice is that when you do all of this, you adapt better to changes, you have more tolerance, and things get easier. We're not looking for perfection or instant resolution. All right, so let's reclaim the term root cause. A healthier definition would be one contributor among many. Relevant in context. So a lot of times we get these studies that come out and say that 40% of people who eat, I don't know if this one came out recently, that people who eat more chicken die sooner. It's not exactly the full weight of what it said, but that was essentially what it was saying. Of course, that's not true. And so that's where context comes in. What is the context of the people who were eating the chicken who died earlier? What is the context of the eating of the chicken of the people who didn't? And should there be a context applied to the entire study, which is basically just finding a correlation, not a cause, and therefore It can't possibly be a root cause. So we also have to look that the root cause isn't about something permanent or exclusive, and the problem isn't curiosity or investigation. All right, so we have to look at all the different factors, what's contributing to it, what's relevant, what isn't, what can we change, what can't we change, and then trying to solve the problem that way. The problem, of course, is believing one answer will solve a complex system. And clarity often comes from understanding patterns, not chasing a single cause. That shift alone could change how people experience their health journey. If everyone is realizing that this is coming not from a single cause, but by multiple factors, and that you're going to work on a strategy. And this is why I love the gut so much. It's focusing on the gut. The gut does so much more for us. All those microbes are so involved with how we function and how everything works that this is one of the best ways to create something that's going to last over time, is to focus on what our microbes need. All right, if this resonates with you, I teach this approach step by step in my free training, the 4-step framework to build a resilient gut and a healthier you. The link is below in the description box, and it shows you how to feed your microbes without changing your entire diet. You can also learn more about the gut balance method in the link that is in the description box below as well. And if you like this content, please hit like and subscribe so that I will and can get more and more of this type of information out to you.